BlackRock has doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on their Bitcoin narrative and have options approved for trading coming soon. Everybody asking what will finally be the catalyst to get Bitcoin moving out of this range again. Could this be it? Could this be a sign of more institutional adoption to come? I'm talking about it today with one of your favorites, Andrew Parish, and of course, Texas West Capital on the back end. Also giving you a quick update. Spoiler, our $10,000 portfolio with Arch Public is now up 42.5% in 5 months. I was not supposed to say that in the intro, but I got really excited. We'll talk more about that. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Market heating up. Bitcoin sitting around $63,500. But I guess more compelling to me is the fact Ethereum 7 days up 13%, while Bitcoin's up 5.77%. Solana 15%. Dogecoin 9%. Cardano 15%. Avalanche 18%, SHIB 15%, Chain. You get the idea. You get the idea. For once in our long, miserable, horrid altcoin-looking lives, there's hope. There's hope. Could get crushed, honestly. One more Bitcoin move, and all of a sudden, altcoins are depressed and whatever. But this seems like it has been, and I'll talk to Chris more about this at the end. And I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. This seems like one of those moments where we can look beyond Bitcoin in this market. Andrew, listen, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and we can get into altcoins later. But I think generally a sign of health or optimism after a long sort of period of consolidation and depression that everything is sort of moving.
Yeah, there is a follow the leader. And when I say follow the leader, I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about Larry Fink. This guy continues to make serious moves in the Bitcoin and crypto space, because you can't say to yourself, is he only going to be involved in just Bitcoin on a go forward basis? Because they already have projects that are associated with Ethereum. These are huge money making opportunities for them. And the guy is just flat out all in every single time he does a hit in the media. It's hyper focused on Bitcoin. It really is. And it's hyper focused on his personal adjustment to the space and then his firm's adjustment to the space. You can draw a straight line, even though there hasn't been any meaningful journalistic pieces on it. You can draw a straight line between his commitment and BlackRock as an organization and Bank of New York Mellon becoming a custody situation for Bitcoin, a physical custody situation, right?
Yeah, I wrote about that this morning. Yep.
And people don't generally understand the Bank of New York Mellon. It's not something that rolls off the tongues of people that say bank, Bank of America, JP Morgan, whatever. But Bank of New York Mellon is like one of the 3 oldest banks in the history of the United States. I think it was founded in like 1794 or something crazy like that. And it's the biggest custodian on the planet. So with all that being said, when Larry Fink is saying to the SEC, hey, good job on that SAB 121 thing you did, but I don't care. We're going to start doing exemptions. And the first one I'd like there to be is I'd like that exemption to have to do with Bank of New York Mellon. And then there's a rumor about it. And then essentially 48 hours, it happened.
What? It's amazing. Like I said, I wrote about it in my newsletter this morning, right? And I went into BlackRock, which we're going to get into. I mean, as you said, BNY Mellon is the largest custodian bank in the United States. For anyone who was following the SAB 121 story, spoiler, it's all of you because I talked about it endlessly. SAB 121 was that memo from the SEC that basically said that the largest custodians in the world could not custody digital assets without putting them as liabilities on their balance sheet, right? You had to have equal cash to everything you custodied in crypto, which obviously is literally impossible. This set the banks on an absolute mental bender when they saw the ETFs approved, because all the ETFs ended up being custodied with Coinbase, right? Because they had to go to Coinbase because they couldn't use any of these custodians. Well, 121 was vetoed, but now there's exceptions. So the positive side of that is that the biggest custodians in the world are getting this. The negative side, if you had listened to Caitlin Long, who I spoke to not long ago about this with RFK, she literally said they're going to make exemptions, but not for us. She was like, this is to screw the industry and give it to Wall Street. So listen, this is bullish for the asset, but this is yet again the government playing games with the crypto industry. Like, you're exempt because you're BNY Mellon, but Custodia Bank is not exempt because you, and she predicted this. She said this was going to happen the day it was vetoed. Yeah.
Nobody has the pulse of the banking industry associated with crypto better than Caitlin. I mean, she's been in the trenches for years with Custodia, and from a regulatory and compliance standpoint, she's, Custodia is suing the Federal Reserve currently, and so from her standpoint, she's absolutely right. It's an interesting philosophical moment for Bitcoin for several different reasons. We talked about for years, 2017, 2019, 2021, institutions are coming, right? And that was a battle cry when we thought there was a meaningful movement, headed for Bitcoin in the space at large. Dude, institutions are here. They are here.
And didn't Matt Hogan from Bitwise yesterday say, like, they're all here personally? Like, they're all buying it? I got to look for the story, but that was basically
it. Well, it's akin to, this is it's completely out of left field, but it's an analogy that works for this moment, right? When Matt Hogan says that institutions are here, and so personally these executives have a position in Bitcoin, it's I'm a Porsche 911 guy, and so all car executives at GM or Honda or whatever at the highest end, they all drive their own brand, but their personal car is a 911, right? So same thing here. Like they've got all of their traditional financial stuff, but they also know that if Larry Fink is here and he's talking about it and he's making sure that there are custody solutions and he's making sure that options, by the way, have been approved just on BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. Now that'll change fairly quickly, right? But they were the first one. So who's pressing those buttons? One guy with a really big fat finger. His name's Larry Fink, right? So extraordinary moment for the space and for Bitcoin, because you have Wall Street institutional architecture that continues to be hard at work, 24/7 under construction. They turn on all the big lights when everybody else goes to bed, and they're still pounding away building stuff. This options thing, Jeff Park at Bitwise put out, effectively a white paper on it, and it was as well received as it should have been. And he made the connection associated with, hey, everybody remember the whole GameStop thing? Well, the reality is the GameStop trade unraveled, not because Robinhood pushed the pause button, or Citadel, encouraged them to push the pause button, or the DTCC pushed the pause button. That thing unraveled because GameStop was able to issue more shares whenever they wanted. Issue more shares, and that enriched GameStop and their executives. Bitcoin isn't issuing more Bitcoin. It's the ultimate hard asset. So the options trade, the options change to the Bitcoin ETFs, and effectively Bitcoin is going to really be something to behold, because
it's going to add so much liquidity, and it gives traders and funds, institutions, the real, no pun intended, option to hedge out their positions, to, play in this market with more cash and less Bitcoin. There's just a million. This is just the next natural step in making this a real asset. You cannot be a real asset class with an ETF without having options on top of it. It was inevitable, but Gary was trying to slow the train.
Yeah, he was trying to slow the train, and Larry said enough is enough. No more slowing of the train. We're going to get this done. And the other thing about options is it not only is it liquidity, but now you have a different process by which price discovery happens. You have fractional, quote unquote, fractional shares of the Bitcoin ETFs. It's a remarkable. I would encourage everyone to go read that quote unquote white paper from Jeff Park. It is really, really good stuff, and the analogies that he makes with moments where, because the truth of the matter is the launch of GameStop from $40 to $400 inside of, let's call it, a week and a half, that was absolutely fueled by options activity, like absolutely fueled by options. And so the only way that price movement was halted is flooding the playing field with additional shares to bring the volatility and the price back down. And again, his point is, we're talking about, one of the catchphrases in the GameStop moment was gamma squeeze, right? So same thing here with the potential with options and Bitcoin ETFs is that, if you end up in a gamma squeeze type of moment, what stops it? We're talking about a hard asset that's not going to be able to issue more shares. And I bet anything that Larry Fink likes that idea. He likes the idea of liquidity. He likes the idea of additional volatility, right? Because what happens, who made the most money in the whole GameStop thing? Citadel did, right? Because they were there, right? They were there handling.
They were also able to turn off the
yeah. So they were there when people were buying the options. They were there when people buying the stock. They were there when people selling the stock. They were there when people were taking the other side of the options. They were there for the whole deal of it, right? So that's what's being set up. Now, again, for purists, right? And I'm one of those, buy Bitcoin in self-custody. This isn't awesome long-term. This isn't awesome long-term. And Caitlin makes all the right points that the SEC and to some extent Larry Fink, they're picking winners and losers. Bank of New York Mellon. I'm almost certain, based on conversations I've had, that the next few custodians are going to be really, really huge banks that you've heard about.
State Street, BNY Mellon. We know exactly who it's going to be. It's going to be all the ones who bitched and moaned, have huge lobbyists, and who they can interact with, and I'm not going to say control, but who are in bed with the government. It's not a tinfoil hat thing. I mean, these are the guys that revolving door.
Goldman Sachs as well. These names will be announced in short order. There's been some conversation in crypto Twitter about Coinbase's position here. I don't think this is a killer for them. They've only been doing this for 8-9 months now. Will there be a shift? Will there be an adjustments in custodians?
Yes.
I think, again, yes, there will be, but I think that's a good thing for Bitcoin overall.
We want diversity. You don't want every Bitcoin held by an ETF in any single custodian.
Right. We don't.
Coinbase or otherwise.
Yeah, Coinbase becomes that if it stayed the way that it is, that's worse for Bitcoin than these additional custodians.
Agree. I think even Coinbase would agree with that from a fundamental perspective. Now, I want to talk more about Fink and BlackRock, because we've seen him. It's amazing. It's like following your own path down the rabbit hole and like the extent of orange pilling. It started with being a financial asset. Then you start hearing about a hedge against inflation. And then, people want to buy this because they don't trust their governments and all the things. Now, kind of the big one here, which I love. This is from Robbie Mitchnick, who came over from XRP, from Ripple. And he is the one who arguably orange-pilled Larry Fink. BlackRock's Mitch Nick sees Bitcoin as risk-off asset. He's on the roadshow. He's on shows talking about this again. But I want to dig in. This is from my newsletter this morning, but this is coming from also a official BlackRock report. Bitcoin, a unique diversifier. Now just listen to this, guys. Okay? In the case of Bitcoin, we strive to bring the same measured approach to our clients as they seek our insights on this highly unique and relatively novel asset. We believe that Bitcoin, via its nature as a global, decentralized, fixed supply, non-sovereign asset, has risk and return drivers that are distinct from traditional asset classes and that are fundamentally uncorrelated on any long-term basis. We maintain this conviction even as short-term market trading behavior occasionally diverges, in some cases profoundly, from what Bitcoin's fundamental characteristics would suggest. They go into describing how it is a risk-off asset. It is not a risk-on asset, a whole thing here. And then even say, listen, it's risky, but that does not mean that it's risk-on. And then a full conclusion here. This is the stuff we've been screaming from the mountaintops here, how this is the holy grail for a portfolio. It's uncorrelated. Historically, even though right now we have a high correlation on a 40-day moving average, if you look historically, it's almost non-correlated. I mean, they keep finding the most compelling Bitcoiner narratives that we have and screaming them to the world.
BlackRock has turned into Adam Back. That's who BlackRock has turned into. It's remarkable. I put out a couple posts, a week or so ago, and this kind of came to light. And by the way, they put out another paper or research report last week. That one was from a couple weeks ago. It is it's hard to fathom that those sovereign asset, risk off, a hedge against global financial instability. I mean, literally, they're borderline. They are borderline plagiarizing the white paper. To be clear, right? I mean, these are the same arguments that Satoshi made himself, in the Bitcoin white paper, which is why I reference Adam Back, who's one of the few guys left that was referenced in the Bitcoin white paper, right? So it's remarkable, and if you don't act on that in some meaningful way, and by the way, if you don't think that BlackRock has designs beyond Bitcoin associated with the crypto space, you're nuts.
They already have an Ethereum ETF. They have an Ethereum ETF. They've tokenized BUIDL. And well, you know what? While we're talking about that, I don't know. This story got me. Crypto's real world assets are finally heading to prime time. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg. I don't know. I had not seen this, but this is not just like a think piece. By the end of the year, a subcommittee of the CFTC's Global Markets Advisory Committee, whose members include Citadel, BlackRock, and even Bloomberg LP, tend to make recommendations to the full committee on how registered firms can use distributed ledger technology for holding and transferring non-cash collateral. Guys.
Yes. So
the CFTC. This is not like, hey, guys, we're going to tokenize some shit. This is like we're going to the government and they're going to allow us to tokenize all the shit.
Right. So those are like the crib notes of what Citadel and BlackRock are going to build in Texas when they build a different stock market, basically. And they've already announced it. It's already been talked about. It's happening. There's going to be a 24/7 competitor to the NASDAQ / the ICE companies, global stock markets. And BlackRock and Citadel are going to run that thing. So those are the meetings that are effectively approving and setting up that particular entity. And that entity, I'm certain, is going to be a 24/7, always on to compete with cryptos, because obviously that's what they are as well. But the real world asset part of it, they're probably going to tokenize everything that gets listed.
Yeah, they tokenize stocks, and we're going to be settling in 5 seconds. I mean, that's what they're talking about. Whether you like that or not, by the way. I don't know that we want the tokenization of everything from BlackRock and Citadel. But Citadel, listen, it was big news that they went to T+1. Right from T+2. You get to get your stuff in 24 hours. How about 24 seconds? There's no way they don't see
Right.
Like the potential of that, and nobody wants to be Blockbuster when Netflix comes in.
Yeah, there is. I go back to another thing that was mentioned this week, or maybe late last week, and it's the very idea that when the movement from and most people haven't been around long enough for this. You and I, have, wink, wink. But a lot of our
You're old. I'm not old.
listeners probably haven't, and mutual funds that's what everybody used for years, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. And ETFs were invented, and nobody buys a mutual fund anymore. Nobody does. Literally nobody does. All those assets moved to ETFs. Why? Because there were a movement from mutual funds were a mechanism where you bought something, and at the end of the day, that share price settled, and it wasn't traded during the day. It wasn't liquid. There was no liquidity with mutual funds on a daily, hourly, minute by minute basis. ETFs changed that. Now you're liquid on a minute by minute basis, and they're all traded almost as stocks on the exchanges. This is another move to the next thing, and that's just like BlackRock saw some little company create an ETF back in 1996 or something. They're like, wait a minute, that's the next thing. We're going to grab this, take it over ourselves. And effectively, BlackRock became the father of ETFs. Same thing here, just same thing here. And if there's anything that Larry Fink is, and the reason why, and I like to remind people of this, Larry Fink is not just the CEO of BlackRock because at some point in that company's history, he got to that position. He's the founder of BlackRock. And the founder of BlackRock has built that company from 0 to $11+ trillion in assets. So guy's relatively sharp. He's relatively sharp. Don't fade the Fink. Don't fade the Fink.
Yeah, and important to remember that these ETFs are still doing well. Right? Bitcoin ETFs remove nearly 5 times daily supply. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy, right? You're talking about 1,548 Bitcoin a day, and we're getting a couple hundred. There's 400 or something in daily issuance. Not that 450. Not that there's no other supply, but guys, eventually the halving 6 to 8 months after the halving tends to kick in. And it tends to matter, and we have extra demand. And I know there's people in the comments who will say, oh my God, institutional demand, it's not a thing. Guys, be patient. This is exactly what is supposed to be happening right now. I just want to, I want to really quickly, before we talk about Archipelago, I just want to highlight 2 stories that blow my mind, just because. Carolyn Ellison of FTX, while charged guilty and sentenced to 2 years in jail, must also forfeit 11 billion USD. Okay, first of all, 2 years seems short, but they said that she was the cooperator of all cooperators. Some quote from Judge Kaplan was like, this is the biggest snitch in the history of snitches. Basically what she said. And this snitches apparently will not get stitches unless she gets them 2 years, but must forfeit $11 billion. How the fuck does Carolyn Ellison have $11 billion? And why is that going to the government?
11 billion.
What?
$11
billion. Is that how much does she have? How does she have it? And how is this not going to people who she stole it from?
Yeah, it's a mind-blowing stat, right?
What?
Where has she kept it? Why wasn't this disclosed at some point earlier? This is from somebody who, there's the famous video about her ability to trade and that she really doesn't know how to trade, but yet she has $11 billion.
Yeah, she was hedging and using stop losses just with her own $11 billion she was stealing from you guys. How does she have $11 billion to give? And is she like, all right, so I got like 30 more. It's fine. Like, how much does she have? I need to know.
Yeah, I've got 14 billion. So let's agree to disagree, but I'll give you 11 billion back. I mean, seriously.
And Diddy's like on the floor in the same kind of cell as SBF. Yeah. They're having a baby lotion freak off. And Carolyn Ellison is doing her 2 years with 11 billion. Dude, sign me up. Like, how much does she have left? I'd do 2 years for, I mean, she have a casual bill like left over. What's happening?
First of all, let's, baby lotion freak offs. I mean, that just sounds like token 2049. I mean, that's
dude.
let's be
Yeah, but
be
all dudes. But maybe that's
yeah,
what did it
yeah,
here
all
too.
dudes. Well, I mean, it makes sense that they're in prison now, and then all dudes like that makes sense.
Well, here's another one. Nancy Pelosi's husband sold more than $500K worth of Visa stock just weeks before DOJ's antitrust lawsuit. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah,
You're doing it right in front of us.
Yeah, right, and laughing about it. You know what I mean? The guy's wearing a funny looking hat in that picture.
Dude, look at him. He knew what he was doing when he took that picture.
Right.
The video, to be fair. But like, come on, man. These cheaters, kid. This is ridiculous.
It is
ridiculous.
Well, that's, we come back to the ethos of Bitcoin, that the game is rigged and Bitcoin isn't rigged. We're starting to get to that line of demarcation. Options, infrastructure, BlackRock. So buy Bitcoin in self-custody. I'll say that until I'll keep saying it. That's the way to avoid the system being rigged. But it's
$11 billion.
Yeah, 11.
I'm stuck on it. Like, I don't care what you say now. This is $11 billion. Casual 11 bill. How much does SBF have laying around waiting for him to get out in his 50s?
Good question.
Dude, like if she's got 11 bill, that dude's got that. And he didn't have to pay back money like that.
No, he just caught a few.
I mean, he's paying for it every day in jail at the freak off, but like he didn't have to write an $11 billion check. This is absolutely insane. Listen, I see Chris in the back. We're going to talk Arch Public really quick before that, because holy crap, we are absolutely murdering it. Right? You guys may remember like 5 months ago, when we started bringing Andrew and Tillman, who hates us now and doesn't come talk to us anymore. When we started bringing them on, we were like, we're going to try this $10,000 portfolio. I know a lot of you are trading much larger portfolios than that with Arch Public.
Yes, they are.
Like,
yes, they
way. But we're up 42.5% in 5 months. 42.5%. That's $14,250 on a $10,000 portfolio trading stocks. And there was a 5% bump yesterday. Wait, I've got it. I've got the charts. There was a 5% bump yesterday and 13.84% bump last Thursday.
Yeah, so that chart is emblematic of what our algos do. And by the way, we have a bunch of them underneath our tent. It's not just one. We have a bunch of algos that people have access to.
This is the one I'm running for,
Yeah, this is the one you're running. And so over the last 5 months, it's up 42+%, a 5% bump, 5.04% bump yesterday. And you take a look at that. Our founding principles at Arch Public are liquidity and stop loss protection and risk mitigation. And so you look at that particular trade, and that's emblematic of what we do. You're not in the markets all the time. You're not taking trades every day. You're in the markets for 30 minutes, 7 minutes, 90 minutes at a time, and you're extracting alpha from those minutes that you're in the trade. And it just works out phenomenally for folks. People that understand markets really, really appreciate the quote unquote sharp ratio with which our algos work. The bottom line is they absolutely protect you on the downside, and you benefit in a big way to the upside. So 42% over the last 5 months it's what it's supposed to do. And then on top of that, I think the trade before we had a negative trade, but it stopped out at like 1.7%, which 2% stop loss protection. So for us, internally, when we see a stop loss like that, we know that the next trade has the ability to go to make a real move because they're coded as such. And so we're, as soon as that trade hit yesterday, we were like, all right, it's going to be a good one. And it was. It was.
Real quick, this comment, I just want you to clarify for him. It's not 40% taxes because it's tax efficient to trade. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You do it.
Yeah. So because we trade futures contracts, you get a tax benefit. It's the 60-40 rule. I'm not an accountant. Talk to your accountant, but that rule exists. That means you get a hybrid of short-term and long-term capital gains because you're trading futures contracts. And so it's not 40%. It's significantly less than that.
Okay, now I have to do one more thing because literally, Carlo, you guys might not know, Carlo, the lawyer, he just sent me, he's clearly watching the show. And he sent me Meta Lawman's post that says Carolyn or Ellison was ordered to pay $11 billion, but doesn't mean she actually has it. There's no determination of what her assets are, and the judge also ordered SBF to pay. Okay, well, I can start breathing again.
All right. Fine.
So yeah, I wasn't trying to FUD. So guys, try thearchpublic.com. It's right here. Check it out. Dude, we're going to be doing a lot of things with the Bitcoin algorithm coming soon. We're not allowed to talk about it yet. But it's going to be awesome. And you can sign up for this for $99. And guys, listen, like, hey, you know, I'm not even like having sponsors generally on this. This is awesome. Like, it's awesome. You know, we back tested it. We put some money in it to prove it. It's up for, I don't know. What do you want?
Yeah. People love it. And the interesting thing is when we have conversations with people, they're like, we can't find anything negative about you. And that's kind of the whole point. My face is on your show every week. I'm fairly recognizable on Twitter. If our stuff sucked, people would tell us it sucked. Nobody says it sucks. Our stuff is legit. It's the real deal.
It doesn't suck. It definitely doesn't suck. Hey, listen, I'm going to bring Chris on, but you guys are like bearded friends. So Chris, can we just leave him on?
Yeah, why not, man? We'll be talking here in just a couple hours as well. So
that's today. Is Tillman going to show up for that? Tillman shows up for that, right? He likes you better than me. It's fucked up. It's a Texas thing.
That's right. That's right, man.
Tillman from Arch Public, you know, Andrew's partner who used to be here, he was like a all-American offensive lineman for Texas.
Yeah.
And on November 9th, unfortunately for my terrible, horrid, awful football team, the Florida Gators, the Gators now have to go into Texas and Austin and play at Texas because Texas has joined the SEC. But I'm going with these guys to the game to just literally take a moral and ethical and probably physical beating.
It's going to be a blast. We're going to turn it into a
blast for you.
Yeah, and well, the game will probably be difficult. Let's put it that way.
95-3.
Yeah, Well, I'm the world's biggest Michigan fan. I was born and raised in Michigan, so we got our butts spanked by Texas in our own place.
Yeah, that's the Sats McGee says I'll buy you a beer in Austin so you can cry in it. To be honest, I no longer assign much like of my self identity to being a Gator fan. It's just where I'm from, but it'll be fun. But we're going to talk about actual price action now. We got Bitcoin back at 63,500 right here. I'm just going to say, Chris, for me right now, I'm looking for this to be a higher low and to get above 65 to get a higher high to confirm that higher low. Yeah, that's like, for me, that's like the whole ball game right now, but you may have a different approach.
No, really, that's a good way to look at it. I wanted to bring up here on the weekly. We can note there's this level around 43 or so on the RSI that's worked as this support resistance level going way back, years and years and years back here. And we just kind of were, kind of bouncing off that area there. And then we've just crossed up above the SMA here. So, just from a weekly standpoint, we've got a lot of room to run the stochastic RSI, a lot of room to run on RSI. So I think, again, I'm like you, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking we're probably bottomed out there. I've talked about it so many times before. We had the great volume decline here throughout the range, and then we had the capitulation here, huge volume spike, large lower wick, closed back up, printed a bullish SFP right here, rallied up, pulled back in 3 waves, and here we are now potentially threatening to break out here. But at the end of the day, if we want to be, legit about this, we're still in bearish market structure. We've got our high, our low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So really, from the all-time high, we have to break out above this 70,000 area here to kind of break that bearish market structure. A good start, though, is definitely this, where we can get a high here locally and then a low and then get a higher high coming out of that. So, we're going to continue to look for that as we're playing here. When we
wait a minute, where's the Larry Fink indicator on this chart? Does that exist somewhere?
I couldn't get it, man. You posted it on my timeline one point there on Twitter, man, and I just couldn't figure out where it is in the thing, man. You have to show me where that is.
That's a real thing. Is it like every time Fink talks?
Yeah, TradingView has to create the Larry Fink indicator. You know what I mean? With his head at the top of a green candle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. We've had good rally here. But we remain within this channel. And so most often when you remain in a channel like this, it's kind of corrective. So the other possibility that I've got here, and I don't like this possibly a whole lot, but sometimes wave Y, which is this one right here, I've got here is 3 waves down, can actually be a triangle. So it's possible this could be 3 here. Instead of 5, this could be 3 up. So A, B, C. We get a D here, and then we'd pull back, probably down here toward that 58,000 area for wave E to finish a triangle, and then we'd break out. So that's the only other thing I'm really looking at. I'm not really concerned at all that we're going to go lower than 49. Again, if we did,
Can I ask a question real quick?
I like this. I'm going to leave.
Yeah. So, Chris, if you pull back, can you pull back and show a little bit, longer? Yeah. So let's right there. Yeah. Right there. What is remarkable to me is, and this goes to where we're at in the Bitcoin cycle, right? Is that price action that you've got, covered there with the red lines. That is such a huge divergence from previous cycles where we're talking about a 20 to 25% range to the downside max, versus what used 55. To be a 50 to 55 to 75% drawdown range after the halving before. And people talk about, it's boring, Bitcoin isn't moving, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is that's a huge deal, man. That is a really, really, really big deal. And it's, I'm not a chartist. You're a chartist. But that just longer term, that feels spring loaded to me. Is what that.
Can't even get a smile out of you guys. I'm fucking.
I'm grinning over here, man. I'm grinning over here.
Man. Come on, man. That one's pretty good. Look at it.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree completely. It's people are like, oh, all the ETFs came in, and if they're buying up all this, why isn't price going up? It's being manipulated, and the fact is, people are selling. I posted a lot of charts from CoinGlass and others showing just how large that selling activity has been, and miners has been huge. So the more important thing is not, it's being manipulated because it's not shooting through the roof. It's like, it's in the grand scheme of things, as you said, it's barely gone down in spite of this, like almost record levels of selling that we've had coming into this swing high. So to me, that is the much more important kind of thing we're looking at here.
Well, miners have to sell to be able to survive in the first,
especially after the halving.
After the halving, their profits get absolutely destroyed. So they have to sell, and that was a larger. It wasn't talked about enough because there were all kinds of crazy stuff going on in crypto at large, generally speaking, in the last few cycles. But those were the larger portions of selling that turned it from a 40 to a 70 or 80% downturn before. And so the fact that there's a floor essentially now is it's something. It really is something.
We'll revisit this when we're at 39. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. That's a triggering statement. So, Andrew, you're gonna have to cover your ears now because I'm gonna ask Chris to talk about some altcoin picks. Sorry.
Well,
I'm gonna head out, guys. You guys do your thing. It's been a good one.
Andrew, we'll see you later. A little bit later here.
Wait, when's your guys' show? You can chill. Okay,
11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. Beards and Bitcoin.
Right, 12 p.m. Eastern. Beards and Bitcoin.
That's right.
Beard. All right, let's do this.
Tillman says he's the pretty one. So,
clearly he's big as shit. I'll say that. You guys are all huge, but whatever.
So man. So I've got about 3 here that I'd like to talk about. This one's NCT USD here. I like it. It's a pretty clean 1 and 2. We've got this overextended wave 3 up here. So I believe we've got that we'll be heading up here toward about 0.02367. And then wave 5 should be minimally headed up here around 0.02777. On the daily here, you can see that RSI remaining bullish above neutral here, just crossed bullishly above the SMA. Stochastic RSI here. We dipped down below, but now we've crossed bullishly, looking for it to pick up and continue to head up higher there. So, really, we popped up above this swing high here. So this has me looking up toward those 2 targets on this one here. And a lot of what you're going to notice is a lot of alts look like this right here. They generally speaking, look like this.
Yeah,
right here.
I was saying something this morning in the newsletter, but also like on the website. I did a video yesterday, and I was like, you just sit on your hands for all these months at a time, waiting for it to happen, and then you look, and they all like kind of start to ramp up the same. To me, that's when you know that it's like, listen, this could all go bad. Bitcoin could do something, but like this is one of those times after sitting here for 6 months saying kind of don't trade alts that looks like you can trade them right now.
Yeah, well, if you remember, a couple of months back, I was on here looking at the total charts and all that, and I said, man, it looks like we've probably got a bottom or pretty close to it with alts. And so, here we are. We had that one lower low for most of them there in August, slightly lower low there with the wick, and then now we're in this, at least locally coming off the bottoms, we're in these higher high situations, right? And so looking to continue this up. So looks good there. We've got BTRT USD. The thing I like about this one is we've got this very clear resistance here. And then we've got on the pullback here, let me see if I can zoom it in a bit. So we've got this really clear resistance here. And then we just had this pullback, which had this nice doji on this volume. Looks great. Now we're getting this great follow through coming up. Stochastic RSI almost reset and oversold. RSI breaking back out above the SMA and trying to pop out above neutral there. So I think we get the breakout here. And if we can get that, that gives us an initial target of 46.2 cents. And then a secondary target up there of around 48.7 cents. And again, like the other one, like all these, this should just be the beginning, right? So it's not like, oh, we expect it to go lower.
Is this BTS? Is that what it was called?
BTRST.
RST. I was like, BTS is like a Korean boy band. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, that I don't, but okay, I'll take your word for it, man.
BTRS.
And the other one I got here, everybody hates math, right? Well, we got Math USD here. They might like this one. So again, same idea, working on an interior third wave here, large candle spread, large spikes of volume here. We've got a pullback, which looks to potentially be complete. So we're looking for this to rally and get up above this R1 pivot here, right above 23.5 cents. And then I've got multiple targets here. I've got an initial target there of basically 34.2 cents, and then 37.6 cents, 46.56 cents, and then 52 cents, working its way up there, kind of just making its way up toward that swing high. So, again, we're at 21.5 cents right now, looking like a pretty good trade. We just want to get that breakout there to kind of get that in motion and heading up there. So I think these are three of the better ones right now that aren't the big names everybody's kind of looking at. But again,
I told Chris to we're trying to like give maximum alpha and pick our best. So I didn't want to do like 19 of them. I actually have a couple too, which is never a thing, but I've been looking over here. First, I wanted to say you did mention total. This is total 3, which is market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Guys, listen, charts are charts. This is not a traded asset. So I always say take the patterns with a grain of salt, but this does look like it's ready to break out with a bullish cross of the 50 to 200. And there's so much room to run. I mean, we're 50% off basically, and that's with more supply of altcoins coming on all the time. We're 50% off the highs from 2021 of the market cap of alts that aren't Bitcoin and ETH. So money is going to eventually flow into these. I don't think it's going to be quite as easy to throw a dart and just choose one. I think you'll have to choose better, but there's so much room to run here. And there's a couple that I had looked at on the website so first of all, Core, this one broke out. I don't know if you guys have been watching Sui. I mean, I'm just trying to give you guys an indication of what you can look for. Like I was talking about this when it was bull flagging. I mean, look at this. It went from 96 cents to $1.79 since September 12th. I mean, there's real action here happening. I don't want to dig through all of them, but I like usually SEI, say whatever it's called, usually follows Sui. I haven't even looked. I bet that's going to happen. Just like, Stellar used to follow Ripple. You just kind of get these like narrative things. And I was looking at DOT earlier today. I don't know if you saw this one, but this looked really good too. It looks kind of like it's warming up.
Yeah.
Hasn't broken out yet. But I mean, you're seeing, to Chris's point, like we're seeing so many coins that are coming to potentially break their downtrends. So
and ADA is recently kind of breaking out, and everybody loves to hate ADA.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know if these will move or not, but like looking at, the indicators I use, I think we're about to, and listen, it makes sense. In March, we were like, dude, this is the top for like 6 months. Like I was saying it, like meme coin madness, 74,000 overextended. Like, well, this is when we get back into it.
Yeah. I mean, historically it is. And this time around, we've even got some other catalysts. If people need narratives, we've got all that money coming back from, what was it, FTX or whatever?
Dude, coming billions of dollars. Yeah.
We've got
as much as Carolyn Ellison can spend.
That was crazy. We've got the other big thing I don't think people understand about the options on IBIT is that they're going to create liquidity, right? So you can generate yield from those options. That yield's got to go somewhere. People are not just going to sit on that money. And so we're likely to see a lot of that flowing into alts as well. These guys get in here that can hold their Bitcoin. They can generate yield. They can take that yield and they can then put it into more degenerate stuff and try to get, higher returns on it. So we've got, quite a bit coming back here as to, extra money flowing in Q4 here. Potentially. So
I think it's gonna be great. And of course rate cuts, whether those end up being short-term bullish or not, there's more liquidity. I mean, I just looked at Say and it's already moved.
Yeah.
It already has doubled off those lows where I gave the indicator. So there you go with the breakout. But like, see this pattern? Like this is where DOT is, like is before the breakout. So I think you just want to be watching these things. I'm just starting to feel actually confident about altcoins after like having listen, in this space, there's a lot of pressure. Chris will tell you. You have a group, right? You're telling like you're in there doing signals.
Yeah.
You see the YouTube traffic in crypto. There's a lot of pressure to be like delivering daily alpha every day. Here's the thing you need to trade. Here's what you do. But if you're a real trader, you need to know that there's going to be 6 months at a time that the best trade is doing nothing. And nobody wants to hear that shit on YouTube.
Nope.
That doesn't make for very engaging content and thumbnails about 100Xs.
Everybody wants the, everybody wants the dopamine fix, and the reality of it is trading's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You get in there, you put together a system, and you can think of it as a business where you're tweaking that system to be better and better the longer you're in it. And then, that's the way you've got to approach it. If you're looking in it to get, to make 1,000,000% overnight, because somebody says they did it online, well, the odds are they didn't show you all the losses they had before they got there. That was a one-time thing. Most people that do that don't end up keeping the wealth. It's like lottery. What you find about lottery winners is most of them are worse off than they began with 3 to 5 years later. And it doesn't matter if they won 10, 20, 50 million. People, you go from one extreme to another and people don't know how to deal with that. And so, they just end up kind of losing back. Casinos, right? What do casinos do? If you win big, they don't kick you out.
They invite
you
back.
They give you a room.
They give you free stuff.
Yeah. They want you to stick around because they know that you're going to end up giving it back most likely. And so, markets are no different in that respect. People come in with that same dopamine fix attitude. And that's what unfortunately is their biggest thing. It's not that Wall Street or crypto whales or somebody's, stealing from them or tricking them. It's that they've got emotion.
It's not manipulation every time you lose.
Oh man, it's
not somebody else's fault. Come on.
Somebody knows your emotions better than you is what it is.
That's right. They know exactly what you're going to do because they're looking into the order book. I'm just kidding. It's just human emotion. All right, guys, you can catch Chris and Andrew in 2 hours and 10 minutes. Correct? Is that on your channel?
Yep.
On Chris's channel. And you should definitely check out Arch Public, right? The Arch Public. That's what Andrew and I were talking about. It's awesome. It's awesome. And
they're great guys,
and it'll make you less spastic about your trading. Guys, that's all we got for you, Chris. See you next week.
All right, man.
And until then, guys, talk to you later. Bye.
That's dope.